So you mentioned those qualities of resilience and curiosity and all. So how do you vet for those qualities? What questions do you ask? What's your process?
Yeah, another great question. So I I typically, I typically ask about past experience, and so I've mentioned that a couple of times. So I guess the next day either I'm gonna interview will probably listen to this and know what I'm gonna ask. But I typically I start with a random question of your last role. I mean, which accounts did you close? And they start mentioning Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase and American Express and Disney and so on and so forth. And then I randomly pick one of these logos and I start diving deeper into that opportunity or deal management. And I start asking questions like, who was the buyer? How did you initially get in touch with them? What was the sales process like? What objections did you encounter? Who else on the team helped you out, and so on and so forth. And when you start diving deep into the details, that's where, again, salespeople are great sellers, so they're great at selling themselves. But it's very hard to fake it when you get to the details. So suddenly they say, "Oh, Disney was actually an existing account that I just took over from another rep, and I grew that from 1 million to 1.2. Or Bank of America was an account that I had my SDR prospect into, and they were actually, the buyer was already familiar with the product from another company or something like that. So when you start asking those questions, you see, again, going back to what I said about, actually doing things and, being there for the charges, competition, objections, then you really start to uncover whether someone was, again, just at the right place at the right time, or whether he's actually done stuff. As soon as I joined, I started mentoring my SDR. I gave him a list of accounts that I want to prospect into. And actually, I was doing some prospecting myself, and Bank of America was, I found a neighbor that knows the VP of whatever at Bank of America. Those are kind of the things that I'm looking for. And, the problem was I'm looking for someone that can actually, tell me details about the problem that they were looking to solve and get pretty deep. Because again, like I said, at the startup, you're pretty much on your own, so you need to be able to ask a lot of questions, uncover pain points, etc. So that's one example. The way that I look for curiosity is I ask them what's the one thing that they learned, in the last 5 years, and then one skill set. Doesn't have to be, by the way, from a professional setting. It might be on a personal setting, and then I ask them how they learned that. And that's how you learn. Again, it might be a one-off, in which case I'll probably ask for another example, but that's the way that you uncover how one learns new things. And also, again, was it an example of something pretty simple as opposed to like an example of, someone learned a new language or someone, prepared himself for a new role by listening to a bunch of webinars. So, again, I really believe that past experience is a much better indicator to one's performance as opposed to like asking hypothetical questions of what would you do if you're in this situation and that. So
where and how do you find those people?
Yeah, hiring in a startup. Again, when you're a rocket ship and you raise you open AI and you have Sam Altman as the CEO, and everybody knows the company, and you raise lots of money, it's easy. But for most startups, again, that's not the case, and so you typically don't have a great brand out there, and and it's still risky, and you raise a handful amount of money, and so I find that hiring good people are generally not looking for a job. It's rare that they're looking for a job. There might be at a point in life where they're not happy where they're at, and so I want to find them at that point in life and convince them that this is the right opportunity. And sometimes it takes months to convince that person. So I remember one really good rep that I probably spent 12 months, keeping in touch with him and convincing him to join. So typically what I do is I find a handful of companies in my industry that, I know they're probably a few steps ahead, but again, they're not like huge companies. And I know that they have good sales reps and good sales methodologies. And I typically spend a few hours on LinkedIn looking for those people. I send them a message. Sometimes people respond after like a month or two. And again, that's fine. Like I said, if he responds after a month or two, that might be the point in time where he's, kind of considering a transition. And again, I'm in it for the long game. So many times we'll meet for coffee, and then a few months afterwards we'll meet again. And, I keep updating them on, the progress and things like that. And so, and I typically hire well ahead of time. So, hiring these days, hiring good person, even if you're at a later stage company, still takes about, 3 months or so. So I typically start looking for those people well ahead, even before I have the position open. And so, at a startup, my experience is that when you find a good person, 20, 30, 50 people at the startup, each solid person actually makes a huge impact on the organization. So when I find that person, I typically find a way to get that person in, even if it's, it's 3 months before I was actually planning to hire for that position.